Cranial podcast. I'm Elle.
I'm Camille.
Today we have Annie with us, and I'm super excited. We've been angling to get Annie on this podcast actually for quite a long time. Annie might not know how long we've talked about it. Um, I'll let her introduce herself in just a minute, but I'm going to throw a quick plug in. Annie was somebody who is really important on my own journey of development. I saw her pretty early on, and she is the person who kind of gave me permission and allowed me, the validation to move forward with my spiritual gifts. So I love her and have tons of respect for her. Welcome, Annie.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for
And
being here with us today.
I just can't even tell you how excited I am to be with you two and to see you sharing your gifts in process here and being sharing it. I mean, that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
And that's what I get so excited about when I see people is getting them to see that and then taking it out and actually using it because that is really it's all about. And that's what's going to
Right.
make the world grow into a lot more loving space, I feel.
hmm
Totally agree. And we'd love to hear about your story. And kind of, we're going to emphasize that question towards the end about what do you do with these gifts? Because Annie is a great practitioner of spreading
Oh,
that love and that light. So lead us through your experience, Annie. How did this happen for you? How'd you come into these gifts?
so it's really important to know that it's not just one way. And you get to discover that through being curious and just trying things. But as I did this timeline, and I'm going to call these markers in my life, where obviously when I was going through it, it was like I had no idea what was going on. But looking back at these markers now, it's like I realized where I was being led, where I've been scooted just a little bit to the left or the right to get me to where spirit already knew, kind of like where I needed to be able to use my gifts in the best possible way in helping others. So I would say it started at clear back in the age of 10. And I think when you were here, I might have told you this story. We had a fair that would come to our little town back in Iowa once a year that had the carnival rides and the games and all of that. And I was standing there waiting for my friend, and this was kind of creepy in a way at the time because I was so young. This dark space and this lady with this deep voice, come in, child, and let me give you a reading. And she pulled out these tarot cards, but I'm telling you, even at the age of 10, I was hooked. I thought this was so amazing that this lady knew so much about me and did it through using these things called tarot cards. So that was really where I got started in all of this. And, as I go through these markers, realize that there's just been so many incredible just fun experiences that have taken place in between these markers. So for 25 years, I worked in the hospital and clinic as an x-ray tech and a medical assistant. And at the time, again, I didn't even realize it until looking back at these markers. The doctors used to call me radar. And I don't know if you remember the show MASH and radar and how he knew what everybody needed before they even asked for it. Well,
She's my favorite character.
I know that
Little
became
quirky, a little weird.
yeah, that became the joke. I was radar because I would just intuitively know what the doctors were going to need and I would have it out. And they were all just so amazed. They thought I was a good worker, but looking back, I think it was, starting to use these intuitive gifts in a different way. So I started taking several classes during this 25 years of working there. And I would have to say my next marker was when I took Reiki. And I just found it a fascinating energy type of work where I got to experience now seeing colors and hearing the body talk to me. And most of the work that I do, I would have to say, is on the emotional sense, where I connect stories to the emotion I feel in the body and we talk through it. And so this is what I started picking up with Reiki.
I didn't know you did Reiki. This is so fascinating.
Oh, yes, I took all the clear up until I can't say that I use everything I've learned.
Right. You kind of create your own like recipe for what works.
Toolbox.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's in your file cabinet if you need it, and
Hmm.
it's used if you need it.
Could you define Reiki? Some of our listeners might not know what that really
That's a good
is.
point.
Also, tarot cards too. Could you also go back and just what? Because growing up, I was like kind of taught like, oh, we don't. But I mean,
It's
personally
cultish.
now, right? Personally now, I really love. There's a doctor. She's a medical doctor. She wrote a book called The Power of Surrender, and now she has these little cards that you can pull from that are just
Oracle are different than tarot, and we should make
right, but
that
it's still
distinction.
I find a lot of value from these, like surrender your fears and breathe, and they have these wonderful little prompts, like almost like a daily devotional, if you will. So if you could just walk us back into what's Reiki and then what's a tarot card, just because some of the listeners might not know, and I don't even know if I fully know what tarot is.
Reiki is dealing with the body's the energy of the body and aligning everything. And Reiki will use what they call symbols that will have specific purposes for that. So one example is they have a symbol that represents distant healing. So if you're, say, working on somebody over the phone, you would use that symbol of the distant healing in the process of working with that individual. It's a non-touch type of thing, which will lead into where my next marker goes. So it's not an invasive process. It can be done distantly, but it mainly works with the energies of the body and aligning them, because when they're aligned, then our lives seem to go better and we feel healthier and all of that. The tarot cards I don't use anymore because I felt like they were too restrictive. They come with specific meanings to those cards. And as I was using them in the beginning, it was like I was getting information that wasn't even on the meaning of what the card was supposed to be. So that's when I knew it was time to give those up. I, they do have a very negative connotation to them, and more of a, some people would say a darker energy, but I don't want to discourage anyone from using them if that's how they start or that's where they feel they need to be, because God will work through any way you're using to be able to communicate with you in spirit.
It's a tool.
And it's all in our intention.
Mm-hmm.
You can use any of these tools with the wrong intention and it's going to have a bad result.
Right.
So as long as your intention is good and you're there to love people and help people through whatever it is they're going through, then even the tarot cards is a source of a tool to be able to do that.
Yeah, I think the tarot cards have a negative connotation just because in like movies, like someone will go in and she has like she throws on and it's like it's the card of death and it's like oh the music gets all dramatic and it's like it's all scary and stuff. I think that's probably it's just media that have
Well, there's a long history with tarot as well. We don't have to go into that because it's not the focus of what we're going to talk about today. But they've been used for a very long time, and they do have a strong association with the occult, right? There's a lot of other people who do occultic practices with them and things. But just like anything else, it's a tool. It's a tool that depends, like Annie said, on what your intent is, how you're going to use it, and what you're going to do with that.
Yeah.
So, and what you're connecting to facilitate that. So,
Right.
yeah.
And really, even the media, in all the scary movies that they show, can show you that even connecting with spirit is a scary thing,
Right.
mm-hmm.
and it's
Which
not.
hopefully by now we've proven is not on this podcast.
Yeah, I took this one class, but he was actually asked to go on this program where they were going to go search these so-called haunted houses, and I'm not suggesting that it's not real, but the media gets in there and wants to make it scary because that's what sells.
Mm-hmm.
And he just was real upfront and frank and said, I'm not going to make this a scary thing. And, they probably just need to leave and I'll help them leave. And they didn't ask him to go on the show because he wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
That's a good ethical medium right there.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Props.
Okay, so take us to your next marker.
I was having all these really fun, exciting experiences. And of course, I wanted to come home and share it with my husband. And he was to the point where he was doing almost everything except wearing the garlic around his neck and holding the cross in front of me to hold me back because, it was scary to him. He didn't understand it, which is scary. And a lot of people don't understand it. That's where they're coming from. So many people have gone through this, I'm sure, where they feel alone. I started, you start wondering, is there something wrong with me? Am I schizophrenic or is it this or that? And of course, with the church as well, you're afraid you're going to get excommunicated. So you had to keep it secret there as well. So pretty much alone to yourself and not being able to share anything with anybody because when you did, they kind of started backing up and
Mm-hmm.
we've all experienced that at some point in this process of the spiritual work. I don't think it's as bad now as it was. I'm 67. When I started, this was all still kind of brand new.
Right. Meditation was a bad thing back then.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That was
Absolutely.
fringy.
I know. So it gets you very discouraged. And so I thought, maybe I shouldn't be doing this. I really was lost. I didn't know what to do. Here I had these things happening and they seemed to help people and it was wonderful. And it left me with a great feeling and them with a great feeling. And yet it still felt like it wasn't right. So I went home and I had a little talk with God.
I love those.
And, and I just said, if you want me to stop, just send me some signs that gives me that indication, and I'll be happy to stop. I'm not hooked to this in any way. If you want me to continue, however, I at least need my husband on board. And he doesn't have to be completely on board, but at least semi. So I have somebody to talk to. So I prayed and asked for guidance. And every morning I would write to a letter to God. And my question was always, what would you like me to know most today?
We
I
love
said
it.
I love that.
Oh, it's so amazing. You just grow so close in relationship in that way. But
Can I
um,
also just point out really quick that I do feel that these gifts, when used appropriately, bring us closer to God, right?
Yes, absolutely.
absolutely.
Because you're seeking every day to know what He wants you to know.
Yep.
Like that's the crux of Christianity is going to God and asking Him to, what's your will for my life? You know?
Him first. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's interesting because I've learned even through that his will is really what our will is. It's like we don't come down, a lot of us, with a specific in mind. We have a general in mind, and then it's up to us and our personality and what we like, what we don't like. We take that, but always in support and asking, what do you think
Yeah,
from him first?
staying in alignment as long
Yeah.
as it's within his prerogative, his will.
Alignment's a great word. That's the perfect word for it. So I'm doing my writing, and one morning I get this message. You're going to meet a man, and he's going to give you a gift. And I thought, woohoo. I don't know what this is, but it sounds exciting, right? Well,
I
this
like
went
gifts.
on, but unfortunately, this went on for like 2 years. And I'm like, okay, did I really get that? Am I just hoping for that? Or what is this about the man and the gift? So my husband and I are in Hawaii, and we're at one of those swap meets, where they sell the vegetables and the fruits and the jewelry. And I'm at a booth looking at this necklace, trying to decide if I want to purchase it or not. And the guy behind the booth comes up to me and he says, may I place my hand on your heart? And I'm kind of looking at him and I look at my husband and he kind of shrugs his shoulder, like, sure, why not? Well, as soon as he places his hand on me, he says, I'm the man to give you the gift, and I'm sorry you had to travel so far to receive it. And I just thought, holy cow.
Just got chills.
Yeah,
That's intense.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, talk about feeling like you were connected and following instructions and waiting semi patiently for this. But he proceeded to tell my husband, she's the real deal. This is a gift that she has. She needs to share it with others because it's going to help them. And I really wished that I had written down everything he said, because I think looking back, probably would have been pretty fun to remember what he had said. When I got home, I realized what the gift was this message that he gave my husband, because now my husband was semi on board.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what I've been praying for, right? He didn't necessarily understand it. And he gave me a lot of blank stares when I would come home with these exciting experiences. But now, at least at this point, he wasn't discouraging me. And that's what I needed more than anything to continue. So I thought, okay, I got my sign. I'm supposed to continue with this. Let's keep going. My next marker was feeling that I had to get into massage, because I felt like, Reiki was good, but you couldn't touch. I felt like my next point in this line of spiritual seeking was you need to touch the body because it's going to open up even more. So I went to massage school, and the main reason I did it is because I wanted to learn this thing called cranial sacral. The sacral is a work where you actually do touch the body in different parts, like the knees, the hips, the lower back, and things like that. And what it does is it aligns your body, it aligns the cranial sacral fluid to flow more fluidly, because then when that happens, you're healthier, your whole body is healthier. But even in the cranial sacral, now I was starting to not only receive messages from the body and connected to emotions, of course, and what the story is and how to get through that, but also crossed over loved ones started coming in. And I worked at this spa for probably 5 or 6 years. Great place. Wouldn't want to work at a spa. People are happy. The music's soft and beautiful, and the lights are low. I was loving life, and I went into work today, and I heard, "Today's your last day," and I thought, "Oh no, I love this place." And of course, I'm not suggesting that they're making me do anything. We still have free choice. But I've asked for help. I've asked for guidance. I'm trying to follow the guidance as I get it. So I knew I had to quit. Again, at the time, I didn't know why I had to quit. I didn't know until later. So I go in and I tell him, I guess I'm moving on. But I've been prompted to leave. Well, I think it was 2 or 3 days after that, I got a job at this place called Advanced Health Clinic, where I got to use my cranial sacral work and do the messages. So looking back, the massage was because I was only doing massages and I wasn't using the cranial sacral, which is more in line with where spirit was trying to get me, knowing all along this is where my gifts were, and this is how I was going to develop them. Became interesting because they were being looked at very closely. And so with that, they told me no more messages, just do the cranial. Because if you're giving messages, that equals counseling, that equals therapist, that equals you don't have a license for that. So I thought, okay, I'll just do it. Well, clients weren't happy. They were like, I promise I won't tell. And I'm like, no, I can't do that. That's not being honest. And, I promised I wouldn't. Well, spirit wasn't having it. And the more I tried to suppress it and not listen, the louder it became. So I knew what I had to do. So once again, I tell them, I guess I got to go because this isn't working out with the plan that apparently is for my life. So next step is home. I have a place in my home. I'm loving life. I'm busy. Everything's going smooth. I'm thinking, okay, I found my spot. This is it. No. Here comes another marker. And this is when my husband passed away from an accident. It was very unexpected. And as anybody that loses someone knows, it turns your world upside down, inside out, and whirls you in a circle to where you don't know where you're standing. And so I was still doing the work. I wasn't sure whether I was going to have to go out and get what I call a real job that has a paycheck that comes in once a week, that I could depend on. And I was just kind of lost. I didn't know what I was supposed to do for sure. And so 2 years after his passing, I'm in the closet. I don't know why. Sniffing his clothes. I knew it was going to make me cry, and I'm sobbing my guts out, wondering what in the world I'm supposed to do with my life now. And I look up and I notice this spirit. I say an angel, they don't have wings or anything. It was just a male that was standing there very patiently with his head kind of cocked down, looking at me, waiting till I finished crying. And I finally went, yeah. And he says, "Are you finished?" And I thought, what did I do? Get the beginner guy that doesn't know how to be a spirit and be
No
supportive?
bedside manner.
Why are you asking me that? Shouldn't you already know that? Okay, I'll answer. And I said, yeah, I guess so. And then he says, did it help? And I thought, okay, now I'm really beginning to wonder if I got somebody who's willing to get
Yeah.
It's
um,
training day. First day at the job.
first day at the job. And I said, no. I said, yeah, I think it helped. I got those emotions out and I think it helped. And so the third question he asked me was, did it change anything? And this time I got mad. And I thought, you're kind of mean. Why are you doing this to me? You're supposed to be kind and loving, supportive, and you're just kind of calling me out on the carpet here. But looking back, I realized it was me that needed to realize this and understand it. He did already know, but he had to see me. He had to make sure I understood it for what it was and that it wasn't changing anything and didn't want me traveling down that rabbit hole and wanted to keep me afloat at this point. I said, no, didn't change one thing. And he reached his hand out and he says, okay, are you ready to live life then? Because you have things to do and people to help. And so then I knew that was my next marker. And this was still the work I was supposed to do. And I would be guided into finding out what area that would look like. I've never advertised. I've always just asked, if I'm supposed to be doing this, send me to people. And I've never not had that not happen.
Well, yeah,
So
I'd hope an angel in your closet would make the marker list. Because I've never had one shown up in my closet. So,
Or outside of my closet.
right.
I get looking back now, they didn't want me going down the rabbit hole because if you do that, then you're not living life and living your purpose. And it's not that this happened right after. Spirit
Right.
understands you've got to go through that
The
grieving
grief.
process. But we're talking 2 years
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
into this, that I'm sobbing and wondering what I'm supposed to be doing.
So maybe the angel wasn't so bad.
He was
You
not
just
bad. He
needed a
was,
firm hand.
yeah. And
They
some
sent the
people,
tough love angel to you. It's like, you need to go talk to
I've
her.
had those show up for me before. When I'm pregnant, I remember with my fourth daughter or my fourth kid, I was a distracted driver sometimes, and they were like, "Can we get off your phone? Stop it.
Focus.
Focus."
yeah, you definitely get what you need at the time for sure. So onward to more classes. I love learning. I'll never stop taking classes just because I just have this empty well of learning that I feel will be with me till I pass. And then even on the other side, I'll be like, what's next? What can I learn?
Mhm. You can use it all.
As I was checking out classes, again, always using Spirit and God as my reference point. What do you think of this? How do you think this will can? Is this in line with what you see for me and how I can best use everything that I have and who I am? I've taken a few mediumship classes online. And I'd heard of the Arthur Finley School. I think it's in London or something. And
Yeah.
I just thought, man, that should probably be on my bucket list of a place to go just to experience it. And so I got online to try to find it. And what came up instead was this Arthur Ford class that was in Georgia at Delphi University. It's a spiritual study school. And I thought, sweet, I don't have to take the long flight. I don't have to take the expensive flight. And it's close enough. I can take courses and come back and work and make more money to go back and take more courses and do it that way. There's no question that that didn't come up as my next marker to choose as opposed to the other one. I'm sure the other one would have been fine too, but
It's a
this was,
big deal school. It's like the place to go study spiritualism and
yeah.
gold standard, but it might not be for everybody.
Yeah,
Definitely.
definitely on the other side of the pond. So
Well, also I don't know that their philosophies would have lined up with what you're supposed to be doing, Annie. So
Right, right. So perfect again. Delphi University, here I come, learning so much and so many different ways of looking at things. I'm learning different ways to do readings. I'm starting to get back into different body work. And as I continue, I probably have at least 2 more years of that before I graduate. I'm also in learning what they call Entura art, which is sort of an art therapy, which has just been fascinating. And within 2 years, I'll have Entura art and metaphysician courses taken care of. This is currently where I'm at. I'm in the process of working on courses that I'm going to teach. And it's all geared around getting people to see I say the old cliche, who they really are, but it's really connecting back to their spiritual aspect of them so that they can discover what their gifts are. They can discover how really amazing they are. And what I feel is really the bottom line of all these markers that I have had is that God will use and Spirit will use any way possible to communicate with us. God loves us so much and Spirit loves us so much and wants so much to be a part of our lives that they will kind of follow your lead too and
yeah.
use that in order to be able to get the messages to you, guide you in your life, and answer those questions that you've been praying and asking about.
Can I ask a question here, Annie?
Yeah,
Um, because you are someone with such a long track record of experience and so many amazing
I'm old.
markers,
That's why.
so many people come into this or look at this or feel pulled to this and they wonder, how does this fit in with my faith? Like how can I be sure this is what God has in store for me? Or how can I take these two things that seem not simpatico and like understand how they fit? How have you seen that in your life? How have you navigated, your faith and this call on this path that that you've been so prompted on for a lifetime?
Well, I would say it has increased my faith. When I see these amazing little, I call them God winks, happen in my life, um, what it has done for me is built a more personal relationship with that faith, with God, with the spirit world, and knowing that we're not separate. That I've incorporated all of this into my life. The spiritual aspect is a part of my life as much as the physical aspect is. And it really has brought so much more into my life. I feel so much love. I, I feel so much more connected on a personal level as opposed to that, they're up here somewhere and we're down here, and you can only connect through being on your knees in prayer. I'm talking to them all day long, and I'm in so much more gratitude for everything. I'll take a walk and I'll just look around and I'll say, oh, thank you for those beautiful trees that are shading me and allowing me not to get hot in the sun as I'm walking. Or thank you for that beautiful song that bird sang. So, if anything, I would say it has brought me close to spirit to really build. that faith in a different way. You know, I love my religion, and I truly believe that it is a excellent foundation to stand on. But I don't, with God's infinite wisdom, I don't think He expects us to stay on that one platform and not be curious to look outside of how else can I communicate with you? How else can I connect to you? You want that every day in your everyday life and not just on a Sunday, if that
Right.
makes sense.
How else can I reach the measure of my creation, right?
Absolutely, because we each come in this world with such beautiful, amazing, incredible gifts that are just for us. And we get to decide, number one, if we want to use them because we have free will, but we also get to decide if the way we use it works with us. Do I enjoy, for example, teaching? Do I enjoy writing? Do I enjoy art? Do I enjoy, using my gift in writing music? It's not just in working with people. It's using the creation that you are to be able to create something in the world that is a piece of God because of the gifts that He has given us and the way that we're using it to be able to share that.
I love that. It goes back to the concept of like divine nature, right? We all are created beings. The Lord has created each of us. What is that scripture? Like a wonderful and fearful creation we are or something. And within each of that, we all have this little spark of divinity. And God is a creator. If we are his children, we are also creators. So what do we want to create? Who are we going to be? We create ourselves and we create outside of ourselves, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, I have to ask this follow-up question. Since you have this sensitivity to the other side, how does your husband feel about your gifts now?
Interestingly enough, I hear these incredible stories where, they feel their husband or they're crossed over this path with them a lot. With him, it was different. Of course, when it first happened, I felt him right there with me, getting me through everything. In fact, it was so beautiful. He owned this business that my son took over, and my son was just like, when he went to work, he says, Dad, I don't know where anything is. And that first whole day, um, he was there with him saying, okay, go to this file cabinet, and that's where you'll find this paper. And then it's like he just stood around and waited for the next question. And he led him through that first whole day to where
Wow.
everything was. Now, with me, it was more just not a lot of talking, but I kind of chuckle because that makes sense. He wasn't a big talker. we
Mm-hmm.
we
Quiet
we
type.
loved, yeah, we loved each other, but I was the one who was always gabbing, and he was the one that was just listening a lot of the time. So it doesn't surprise me that he wasn't a gabber even on the other side. But he has come to me in those moments when I've needed to make a big decision, like moving or investing in something, or just where I need his help in the big things, not so much in the everyday. Doesn't mean I don't feel him, but he hasn't really expressed. I think it's more of a feeling of, okay, now I get it.
Mm.
In
Hmm.
fact, he was kind of funny when I was doing all of that work. He was actually the one that made a kind of a good point. He says, "Well, aren't we here to live life?" And I said, "Well, yeah." And he goes, "Then why are you so spiritually driven if we're going back to that? We're going to get it anyway." And I was like, "Well, that's true, but if you could live your life easier by being connected to all of that, wouldn't that be grand?" I had one time with my mom. She always wanted to be a school teacher, and I didn't really realize it until after the fact that I was preparing for this class, and I could feel my mom so close, and I kept thinking logically, Mom, you never really got into this. And when I would tell her stories, my mom and dad were very cute. They would always say, well, if you believe it, I believe it. You know, like I always talk bad about it. But I could feel her very close and wanting to be a part of this class that I was teaching. And it didn't even dawn on me. And it was because she had always wanted to be a teacher here on life, and she never got to do that.
Hmm.
Here was her opportunity to do it with me, through
That's
me.
beautiful.
And it was just beautiful. It was fun. It was fun to have her.
Kind of demonstrates, we still have this relationship on the other
Mhm.
side with these people where we mutually benefit each other, right? Oftentimes we think we're getting everything from them, like they're supporting us, they're helping us, they're working through, but we also are allowing them to still, experience and have love and have joy and fulfillment in that way. Like it's not one way, it's
Right.
multi-directional.
It's that embodiment that we have that we've talked about in previous episodes where they can
Right.
benefit by doing something with or through us as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Which brings me to this quote I'd like to share. But it says, the only eyes, the only arms, the only hands, and the only heart God has on earth are yours and mine.
I love that.
That's why it's so important to share who we are, what our gifts are, what we've been given, and use it in a way that somehow benefit the world that we live in.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of applications that really apply with any kind of intuitive gift or spiritual gift and work. And people often think they have to be huge and miraculous, but even just listening to the quiet inspiration in day to day, allowing yourself to be an earthly angel, allowing
Yeah,
yourself to be inspired and helpful to other people, and whatever that looks like for you
yeah.
is important. So, what advice in closing here, Annie, do you have to give to people who are questioning whether or not they should step into their gifts or do something with them or explore them further?
I would really highly recommend the timeline and see if they can see a pattern of where they've been directed, what surrounds each of those markers, in the sense of what were they doing, what were they exploring, and just see if they can't find a common pattern to discover where they are being led.
Practical advice.
Yeah, you just have to be curious. And then once you start, you just got to do it, even if you're afraid, if it's in working with others, because it really is in the doing and the learning where you develop and you grow and you expand.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much. This has just been amazing. You ladies are amazing. And I'm just so grateful for you doing this and helping people through this process of encouraging them to step into who they are and what they're capable of. And we're going to make this world a better place because of it, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Giving a little light everywhere we go.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Shine that light, grow it. Because like I said, that light holds love, and we need that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, well,
All
if
right.
you want to follow our podcast, you can go to our website, throughtheveilpodcast.com, where you can have links to watch it on YouTube or listen on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. We have a community you can join on Facebook where we have monthly meetups as well, where we discuss different topics every month, and you can come on and ask questions. And maybe you have a story you want to share and you want to be a guest on our podcast. So we appreciate any interaction. Please subscribe and watch the podcast when it drops so our algorithm will be better. More people will have the opportunity to find what we're doing.
Please reach out if you would like to be on the podcast or if you have any stories to share. Also, if you'd like to get in contact with Annie, would you be open to people reaching out?
Oh, absolutely.
We will also put her information down in the show notes or the section below so that you can find information on Annie. And as always, we'll be excited to see you guys next time.